everyone, and welcome back to the Water Online Show, powered by Water Online, the leading online destination for the water and wastewater market. I am your host, as always, Travis Kennedy, publisher here at Water Online, and also joined by Mr. Kevin Westerling. Kevin, do we have a show ready for everybody today?
We sure do. Can't wait. What's up, Travis?
Well, today we're tackling a topic that we've been talking about for years. So, Kevin, you and I have gone back and forth on this a lot. And it really is a front of the market issue that needs to be talked about. We're not going to be able to solve it, I don't think, but with the guests we have on today, I think we're going to go a long way to getting some answers. But the issue that we're going to be talking about is really why digital solutions in water utilities struggle to gain real traction. That's the issue. And when I was thinking about this a lot, coming out of Water Week a couple weeks ago down in DC, I figured the best place to start was let's just be honest with the market. So there's no shortage, right, Kevin, of innovation in this space. Would you say I'm right with that?
You are correct. We talk about it all the time.
Every day, it seems. So there's new platforms, smarter sensors, AI-driven insights. It's all out there. So what is really going on? Is it a technology problem? I don't think so. Is it a trust problem? No, this is one of the more trustworthy markets and industries that you're going to find, especially between vendors and utilities and municipalities. Is it a budget problem? Well, Kev, back me up on this if you agree, but I think almost everything comes down to budget to some extent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talk about we don't have overfunded utilities, right?
Right.
So they're always looking for
budget's always top of mind, but is it the core of the problem? I don't think that's it. Is it an issue? Is it an issue that's actually happening before the technology ever gets implemented? Well, I mean, this episode, this is what we're going to be digging into. We're going to be digging into the gap between innovation and adoption and why solving technical problems is only half the battle. So, Kev, we're going to explore things like why utilities are slow to adopt digital tools, even when the value seems obvious. And would you agree with this, Kevin, that most of the time the value seems completely obvious? It's right in front of us.
Yeah, we're always promoting it because we say if you do the thing, it will work out for you in the end. It's a better way to operate. But we understand that there are hurdles to get there.
Exactly.
So that's where we're going to help with today.
Yeah. I mean, also how culture, risk, and legacy systems shape decision-making nowadays. This comes down to, this is a newer type of technology in a legacy-driven industry. So, of course, we're going to be talking about culture, risk, legacy systems, all of those things. We're going to dive into that. One other thing, though, what a utility-friendly go-to-market strategy should actually look like in the real world. That is a big thing, utility-friendly go-to-market strategy. So if I was to sort of boil that down is how are we actually going to make this a utility-friendly message, system, operation, adoption, all of those things. So our guest today is going to be able to help us dive into that. So let's get practical. Let's start breaking down where solutions providers miss the mark, what utilities should be asking before they buy, and what both sides can do to finally move the industry forward. Let's get into it. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our special guest here for today, Mr. Seth Werlinsky. Seth, welcome to the Water Online Show.
Hey, Seth.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So I want to dive right in. So I went a little long in my introduction, but it's just because it was top of mind. I've been thinking about it for almost 2 or 3 weeks straight coming out of Water Week, as I'd mentioned. So I'm curious about your history. What sort of led you here? So what originally brought you to explore why digital solutions struggle to gain traction in water utilities? I could go on all day, but I'm curious. I want your story.
Yeah, I think it's really similar to kind of the challenges that you're seeing. I mean, I've worked for a number of water companies in the past, and they all have amazing technologies, amazing innovations. A lot of them are smart technologies or digital solutions or, whatever we want to call that. And despite the fact that you have this big need in water to save money, to get more efficiency, to, put your people on high value projects and all of those things, it always surprised me like how difficult adoption was, because it would kind of felt like a no-brainer to me that, hey, there's lots of vendors out there that supply these kinds of solutions now. more than ever. The problem is bigger than it ever was, but yet still there seems to be this gap between amazing innovation and the and adoption on the customer side.
I
So
couldn't agree more. Yeah, go ahead.
no, that's all I was going to say. So it seemed like it seemed a bit of a paradox to me. Like, why is that not happening? And so that's really what led me to kind of be looking into it.
Man, you could probably spend a lot of time just thinking, man, just sitting in a room thinking, because that's a big question.
Yeah, it certainly is.
I catch Kevin doing that a lot.
Oh yeah,
He's just sitting in a room thinking.
I should be working, but I'm just thinking.
The man is a one-person think tank.
I'm thinking about work. All right, Seth. So let's dive into it. As Travis mentioned in the intro, there's no shortage of digital innovation, and you talked about the gap. Why is adoption still so slow? What's the disconnect there?
Yeah, that's really the $10,000 question, right? And I can only tell you sort of what I've seen and sort of my experience. But from my perspective, I think that the innovators, and particularly in software, where you have a lot of founders, a lot of smaller companies, or on the other side, you have a lot of legacy companies like these large sort of water-focused companies that maybe don't have software as part of their DNA, so they're kind of new getting into it. So even though the customer itself the supplier itself may not be a startup, the digital business within that company might be.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're very excited about the new technology. They're very excited about talking about all the very cool things that it can do, especially in this world of AI and machine learning. And they sometimes, I think, forget to either talk about the value it provides. So maybe the focus has been so much on the technology itself, the AI, or the dashboards, or the insights that it provides, but not so much the value that the customer is going to get out of it, that the municipality is going to get out of it. But also, I'm not sure if they're always considering all of the concerns of their customer. So there's certainly concerns that the customer has in terms of trying to solve the problems they have, like how am I going to make the water more resilient, or how can I get more visibility into my system? But they may not always be thinking about how difficult is it to adopt this new solution, or does it work with my existing technologies? And we can go more into that, but I think that at a high level, it just really requires an approach that looks at all the challenges the municipalities are facing.
Right. So when I look at it, and I thought about this after I read your article. So you recently wrote an article. We published it on Water Online. You can find it there right now. And a lot of it was built around some of the narrative that you just talked about.
Yeah.
But I want to bring it back to the way you framed it, which I agree with wholeheartedly, which is looking at the entire picture, and that's important. And we have vendors in this space that historically would have a tendency to lock into features and benefits, bells and whistles that their digital solutions can provide, right? That they're capable of. What's missing is a look at the entire picture of, all right, so what does that mean for the customer, for a utility? All of those bells and whistles, features, benefits are certainly separators, right? They create a value edge. But what does it mean for your customer? So be customer facing versus inward looking, right? So to me, that's a marketing issue. To me, that's a sales process issue. What say you?
Yeah, I think in the end, it really comes down to, you said a marketing issue. I'm going to go one level down, and I'm going to say it's a messaging issue.
There you go.
And so, there's any company needs to make sure that they are addressing and solving a problem for their customer, obviously, right?
Yep.
So we all, I think, are familiar with the common, what I'll call operational challenges of this industry. So there's aging infrastructure, there's workforce constraints, there's budget constraints, there's increasing compliance concerns, all of those things. And hopefully the solutions that are being presented to them help solve those problems or make those things easier.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other set of what I call the commercial problems or adoption problems that if you're just focused on what you're selling, that you kind of miss.
Mm-hmm.
And those would be things that are just like, what keeps what are some of the other things that keep a municipality up at night especially when it comes to new technology? Because we have to remember that, this industry isn't necessarily, has traditionally not been as open to accepting new technology. It hasn't been built on innovation in the same way that, let's say, healthcare has, where there's always new innovation being introduced. Not so much the case with the water sector. So there's a reluctance to accept new technologies because it's a little more unknown, maybe. And there's also a ton at risk. There's health risks, there's water resiliency risks, there's branding risks. And so there are things like, will this new technology overload my team, which maybe did not come up with maybe they're not very technically savvy. How long is the implementation going to take? Maybe they've had situations where, they think it's going to be one cost, but there's cost overruns or there's other costs they didn't expect. So what's the real cost going to be over time? How is it going to integrate with my existing SCADA system? What if I don't have a SCADA system? Can I even use this?
The list seems endless. There seems to be all kinds of stuff. Like
there are, and I can go on and on. But these adoption problems often have nothing to do with the innovation itself. It's more about, how do I bring this and present this to the client?
Exactly. I mean, one of the things to think about, if you're a utility municipality out there that's has heard about digital water, heard about this innovation that we have within the sector, it's time to start looking at it. And one of the things to keep in mind, though, too, is that I definitely agree it's a messaging issue, but it's also a marketing issue. And what I mean by that, and the differentiation that I want to just talk about if I could, for just a minute, is the fact that in any other industry in the B2B world, so healthcare you mentioned, or life sciences, or whatever, usually the money spent on marketing is about 10% of gross revenue. So if you're a $100 million company, you're going to spend about $10 million on marketing, messaging, that type of thing. In water, that number is 2.46%. So it's less than a fourth of what would be considered the average, what should be the average spend on messaging and marketing. So it's no wonder that these vendors that have this type of innovation in an innovation adverse market are struggling to really adhere to the needs and the wants of the customer, which is the utilities and municipalities. So my message to utilities and municipalities and all of those engineers and operators listening out there that are listeners of the Water Online show is simply this: let your vendors know this. Let them know the fact that you need to be educated on all of the benefits and all of the ways that the vendor is thinking about your needs and what those needs are. So a little bit less on the bells and whistles and the sales specs and the spec sheets and the sales presentations about how wonderful a product may be, but how is this actually going to be implemented? What are all the things that I don't want to have to take time out to think about, because you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, have already thought about it, and that comes through in your messaging. So if I was to leave this sort of sector of our conversation for our audience, I would say press your vendors to be better at messaging, be better at being able to be customer facing versus inward facing about all of the bells and whistles of the technology. That's going to go a long way to helping this industry adopt this innovation that's out there that is incredible. We have vendors in this industry that are incredible at what they do. Their solutions are amazing. They can make facilities more efficient, save money, all of those things. So everybody out there that's listening, whether you're a vendor, be loud. If you're a municipality, utility, tell your vendors to be loud about all the innovation that's out there. So I'll get off my soapbox. Kevin, I know you have a question for him, so I'm going to go ahead and fade to black and mute myself. You're up.
Well, I'm going to dovetail right in.
All right, let's do it.
Because as you said, the marketers, the solution providers, they can talk about their product up and down and tell you how great it is. And I truly believe that the operators, the utilities, in their heart of hearts, they probably know that this digital solution will improve their operations.
Sure.
But there's another hurdle there. And you said they are adverse to innovation. A lot of it comes because they have, a life-saving, important product to deliver. And so, they don't want to change things up when they know what they do works. But that can also be a detriment because they've been doing the same thing for a lot of years. They've mastered that, and sometimes they're uncomfortable with change. So, Seth, how much of bridging that gap from innovation to adoption comes down to culture at the utility, and how do you change that?
I think culture is a big thing. The way I would phrase it, though, is really change management, and it kind of speaks to what we were talking about before. On the utility side, is that a lot of the folks who work at utilities have been doing that job or working at that place with a lot of pride for 10, 20, 30 years. And every utility really is unique. Every city has its own kind of fingerprint and what makes it different than, the municipality next to it. And so there is definitely a feeling of pride and that they are delivering water or treating water in a way that is going to help the community as much as possible. And they know it better than any algorithm can. And they're probably right. And I think the point of the technology is not to replace that person. The point of a lot of this technology is to allow that person to spend less time on lower value activities and spend more time on the things that their experience really lets them add value on. But I think that this, going back to this change management issue, is that it's hard. It's hard in any industry, let alone one that's like so ingrained and so specific to water. So if we call that culture, we call that change management. I think that's a big piece of it. And I think that the vendors to that industry have a responsibility to not only talk about the value that it's going to bring to the utility, but also how they are going to help them, how the vendor is going to help them implement that solution. There's a lot of concern that they're going to be, once that software is implemented, then the vendor walks away. Like, there's a lot of concern about that. Who's going to manage this thing after you guys leave?
All right.
And so there's a responsibility, certainly on the vendor side, to communicate that value, but also to ensure that they're going to be comfortable with the entire process.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So what are the biggest fears, or dare I say risks, that utilities associate when they're thinking about adopting new digital tools? I imagine that obviously cost and budget has something to do with it, because it always does. But staffing, workforce, we've talked about. Implementation challenges. I mean, that's got to be something. So
Huge.
Talk about those. What are the biggest fears and risks?
I think if you boil it up, it's really about fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is so
It is.
new to the industry. And I mean, even myself, let's just talk about AI, right? I feel like there's so much happening so quickly, and there's so much I don't know.
Mhm.
And I work a lot with smart water solutions, and I feel like, I generally have a good sense of technology, but I often feel completely lost when we're talking about how quickly this technology is moving along. And you can only imagine what that must be like for a utility. And so there's this fear of the unknown, because, I mean, vaporware is a real thing, right?
Yep.
And nobody wants to get burned. Nobody wants to waste the little money they have. Nobody wants to stress out their workers, and nobody wants to scare their workers to think that they're all going to get fired because AI is taking over their jobs.
Yeah.
So certainly all these things that they're worried about are implementation time, cost overruns, who's going to support, am I going to be locked into a particular vendor once we have the solution and I can't bring any other tools in? Like we talked about, is this going to integrate with my current systems?
Right.
So there's a lot of these sort of adoption fears that utilities would have.
Right. So, Seth, from your experience, and you've worked at multiple technology companies, where do these digital solution providers most often miss the mark when trying to sell or implement their technology at utilities? Is it something that they should be saying that they're not saying? Is it something that they're saying that they shouldn't be saying? Where do they miss the mark?
What are they saying that they're not saying that they should be saying? Is
That's what I'm
That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. So go ahead.
So what I'm trying to say is, it's really, a lot of these water innovators are engineers, particularly when it comes to the founders. They're not professional communicators. They're not professional marketers. Certainly the startups, they may be bootstrapped, they may be very early stage, right? And they're really trying to put a lot of their effort into development and a lot of their effort into sales. And so they tend to be very focused on the product itself. What is this widget that I have, and how amazing is it? And in fact, I just I led a conversation the other day at the Water Council, and it was with founders, and we were talking about what do companies, early stage water companies, need sort of as they're getting going in terms of marketing.
Mhm.
And it's really it's really communicating that value.
Yep.
And it's really helping them understand how they can make that process, which most utilities have never been on before.
Yeah.
How can they make that process seamless, not scary? How can they make them feel comfortable that it's going to go exactly the way they want it to go? And so I think they can do a much better job of directly addressing some of the things that have nothing to do with the product itself. Just how are they going to deliver the product? I mean, I'll say one other thing, if that's okay. I mean,
Sure.
it always surprised me that we don't have like this 800-pound gorilla in smart water, right? If you take any other industry, you obviously have sort of the big players and then everybody else. That
Mhm.
doesn't really happen. At least it hasn't happened yet when it comes to smart water. You have 10, 12, whatever the number is, of these smart water companies all sort of circling around the same problems that we talked about before, the operational problems that the utilities are facing. But nobody's really, it seemed to me, been able to really break through and become the leader in that industry. And I think it's because they may be missing that fundamental piece of helping the utilities understand how they're going to overcome these adoption problems as well.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, it's really a grassroots operation when you think about what this is. I mean, one of the reasons why there's no 800-pound gorilla also is because this is such a legacy market. Is smart water has only been around as a term or as a ecosystem for however many years, not many when you compare it to how long like the piping industry has been around, or pumps or screens or whatever. So there's been no time to ramp up or to have a company or two sort of grab that role in that position in the marketplace. But I 100% agree with you. And that is, we need to have messaging out there that speaks to utilities, and utilities need to demand this from their vendors around, I get how wonderful your product is. I understand it. But these are the things that I'm thinking about because I have to think about, because I have constituents that I need to answer to. I need to know how this is going to affect me on all these other things that have nothing to do with how well your widget is, how well your widget works, right? How well your product is. I am curious though, in your opinion, because I have mine. I'm going to hold off on mine, although I have been known in this show to just go ahead and give my opinion before I even ask the question. But you go first here, Seth. Do you think part of the issue is that digital solutions are sometimes designed for long-term gains, while utilities are focused more on short-term needs and obviously constraints?
In general, no. I think that they are. I think the intent is right when it comes to the smart solutions. Because if I think about, on the whole, if I think about smart solutions that I've sort of been aware of when it comes to smart water and digital solutions, they really are focused on helping utilities see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
They're helping them get some visibility, get a lot of visibility, which they don't have now. They're helping them predict what's going to happen in the future. They're helping them forecast how the network will work. And they're also helping them automate. So, you can have your operators working on sort of higher value things, or give your operators more better data so they could act more efficiently. So I think in general, they are focused on sort of helping utilities over the long term. And maybe that's what makes it even more challenging, is because it's hard to buy into something that's going to help me solve a problem that hasn't happened yet. And if it was just like, hey, if you plug this thing in and all your water problems are going to go away, that would be much easier. But that puts even more focus on the messaging then, like we talked about, because you really have to demonstrate and explain the value when sometimes that's a hard thing to really grasp.
It goes both ways too, right? So the water utilities and municipalities and water companies have constituents and customers that those customers have to buy from them. There's not as if there's like a vending machine full of water providers within your town.
Right.
But if I was to give one piece of advice around this for utilities and municipalities based on conversations that we've had over the years related to smart water, is this is a bigger, longer picture solution / change of approach. And it's not a commodity. It's not like you're buying a pump or a screen or something like that. It is new, right? And if utilities and municipalities can also do a little bit of a better job of communicating with their customers and constituents of, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And this is what it means for you. You're not selling your residents of your town or your city anything. They're already consuming and buying your water, but letting them know exactly what you're doing, why, and how it affects them and benefits them. You're going to see a cut down of, I believe, coming out of Water Week a couple weeks ago, I think when it was a municipality, which will go unnamed, but it was in the South. It was a rather large one, I would say mid to large. When they started doing that messaging out to their constituents and their customer service calls were cut in half in 90 days. I mean, think about that. Think about how much money they put into customer service. Somebody has to answer the phone. Somebody has to log the issue. Somebody has to send somebody out to look at it. All of those things. When they started going on offense instead of being on defense, that's going to help them adopt these systems and not have to worry about the longer term gains versus like the immediate needs. The customers are already sold on it, right? So I think that does play a role.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just like any other business, you are going to, your responsibility, whether you're a provider of water or you're a provider of, computers, is to give your customers what they need when they need it at a price that they're willing to pay. Yeah. And my guess is that most ratepayers have no idea what's happening when it comes to smart water at their local municipality.
Zero, nothing.
I know nothing.
Right.
And so if I knew that there were other options out there, if I knew that there were better ways, if I knew these solutions were being presented to them, if I knew that my municipality was, or my community was considering investing in them, I would be pushing one way or the other and really helping, and I think that would, for lack of a better word, maybe put some pressure on, or maybe a better way to describe it is help the municipalities or utilities feel more comfortable making those investments if they were getting some feedback from the local community. Exactly. And I'll tell you why that's really, really important is because particularly in software, adoption drives additional innovation. So it's not just I have innovation and then it gets adopted. Like, let's say it was a screen, right? Yeah. I sell the screen. The value of the screen is great. I understand why I'm buying the screen. I implement the screen, done. But the way software works is it's constantly based on iteration and iteration driving new features. So imagine how many times we get an update that, the apps on our phones have to get updated, or our computer. I mean, every day I get another pop-up that says, we've got the latest 2.5 version of whatever, and we have to constantly update. Well, that's because software companies make those changes and those enhancements because they're watching how their users are using the solution, and they are implementing new features and functions and enhancements in order to meet those needs and those use cases. And so if the solution is not being adopted, I don't know how it's being used. If I don't know how it's being used, then I can't drive more innovation and more enhancements. So the slower the adoption happens, the slower the overall innovation in the market is going to happen. And in the end, that just hurts the utilities because it's going to slow down their opportunity to get new tools and things that are going to help drive more efficiency, more resilience, and better delivery.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, good stuff. So we want to improve digital adoption at utilities. Not because we have any vested interest. I mean, especially here, like in digital technologies per se, or those solution providers, but because we think that's going to help utilities do a better job at providing clean water
100%.
to everybody.
Yep.
So that's why we're here. I mean, I think technology has helped in just about every other aspect of life. Why shouldn't it help utilities?
Agreed.
Except for maybe like social media. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's great, but the rest of it,
with you on that.
it's got a good track record.
Except for YouTube and Spotify and Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts. You guys are awesome.
Yes.
We'll keep those.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can stay.
So we always like to give the audience an easily digestible takeaway from these talks. So if you could provide one piece of advice to both utilities and tech providers to improve adoption, what would that piece of advice be?
Oh boy, here we go. Seth the Oracle Werlinsky.
Yeah, here it goes. Everybody
Rest of the
buckle
week.
up.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, it's not going to be different from what we've been talking about so far. And it really is messaging on both sides. And, you know, crafting that messaging is not intrinsic to everybody, right? And so it really needs to be thoughtful in terms of if I'm a solution provider to a utility, then that messaging has to incorporate not only the value that the solution is providing, but also sort of how you're going to implement it and understand that there's a change management issue, that there's concerns, that there's fears out there in the market. On the utility side, same thing. You have to message to your constituents, to the community, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how this is ultimately going to benefit them. And I think if both sides can dial in that messaging, then I think that'll help streamline that process for everybody.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Seth. So thank you very much. Well, what a great conversation. And honestly, it's one that hits at the core of where our industry is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere, right? We hear about digital transformation right up there with everything else that is top of mind, workforce, PFAS, whatever the case is. This digital transformation is something that's occurring nationwide and also globally. I mean,
I'm really happy we're talking about it. I think it's one of those things that seems to be out there, but really needs to have a specific conversation like that. More people need to be talking about it so they can sort of understand what some of these hurdles are.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, one thing that really stands out, to me is this, that innovation alone isn't enough. I mean, adoption happens when technology, operations, and businesses, all of those realities align together.
That's right.
I mean, that's really at the core of where Water Online comes in. I mean, the goal of Water Online is not just to showcase new solutions, but it's help bridge that gap between what's possible and what actually works in the field. So whether it's conversations like this or case studies or technical insight or connecting utilities with solutions providers who truly understand how adoption works versus bells and whistles, we here at Water Online try to do everything we can to help you make more smarter, more confident decisions. So if you are a utility out there trying to navigate digital transformation, or a technology provider trying to better serve this market, this is the work in front of us, right? So as always, though, thank you everyone out there for listening and watching the Water Online show. If you found this episode valuable, please be sure to smash that subscribe button, share it with a colleague, and stay connected with us at Water Online. Until next time, everyone, keep pushing the industry forward.